YouTube Frongs, welcome to a pre-release video covering details on the newest characters based on their livestream demonstrations. Just pretend Lisa here is YAE MIKO. 2.5 livestream has finally brought the drip marketing dreams to reality with YAE MIKO's announcement. Probably one of the most hyped characters, showing a slick design with a sly and playfully mischievous personality. In this video, I'll be diving into a limited kit breakdown from the livestream, discussing potential weapons, artifacts, and brainstorming limited team building. Reminder that this is not a full guide on the character. We have yet to see the official number breakdowns of YAE MIKO, which can heavily determine what her optimal layout is, but we can extrapolate some limited data based on her design. If my YouTube followers enjoy seeing this type of thought-dumping video, let me know in the comments. Let's begin. Quick rundown of YAE MIKO's material prep revealed in her YoLab article. For level 80 and level 90, you'll need 26 to 46 false fins from the Coral Defenders, 108 to 168 of the Ganoderma, which are the blue plants, around 30 of each handguard, and 300 to 420,000 Mora. For talent materials, about 20 more of each handguard, Inazuma light talent scrolls, and this question mark indicates materials from the only unreleased weekly boss thus far, the upcoming Raiden Shogun Weekly. And, currently still officially unknown at the time of recording this video, her Ascension stat for cost-efficient investment of 80 out of 90. We don't know what that is yet. Talent priority will be mentioned later in the pre-release breakdown. So, what can we glean from the livestream demonstration? Let's replay her voice actress, describing her skills, and then we'll coast into them.
YAE MIKO wields a catalyst and manipulates the electro element. She provides a mix of constant damage when off the field, as well as high burst damage when on the field. Miko's elemental skill, Yakan Evocation, Seishio Sakura, causes Miko to move swiftly and leave behind something called a Seishio Sakura. These fox-shaped branches can periodically cause lightning to strike nearby. Youch! When Miko unleashes her elemental burst, Great Secret Art Tenko Kenshin, she will unseal nearby Seishio Sakura, destroying their outer forms and transforming them into Tenko thunderbolts that descend from the skies. With her passive talent, the Shrine's Sacred Shade, when YAE MIKO uses her elemental burst, each Seishio Sakura destroyed resets the cooldown for one charge of her elemental skill. After unlocking the talent Enlightened Blessing, YAE MIKO's elemental mastery will increase the damage dealt by the Seishio Sakura.
We have that she's an electro catalyst user with soft, persistent damage from her beautifully elegant elemental skill, Seishio Sakura, and what looks to be a high damage burst activated nuke, which looks to be split form. Some of that damage will likely come from her actual burst, and then also from this, quote, unseal nearby Seishio Sakura, unquote, deal additional damage via thunderbolts. Without knowing too much detail, there seems to be a direct correlation between the number of Seishio Sakura and the thunderbolts. After using her elemental burst, it seems one of her passive talents resets the cooldown of her elemental skill charges. So, uptime and DPS leans towards her elemental skill, and her elemental burst is a catalyst for additional nuke DPS. As much as she seems to be a rotational burst DPSer, it doesn't seem a majority of her damage is actually from her burst, but rather from her skill. We also get additional information that her elemental mastery will increase the damage dealt by the Seishio Sakura, her elemental skill. Scaling details are currently unknown, so with regards to artifacts, we unfortunately have to see if elemental mastery will be a priority or an extra stat. Personally, I'm hoping that it's just an extra stat, otherwise she's going to be extremely stat hungry for all the right pieces. So that covers the base information provided from the livestream. As mentioned, she seems to be an in-between of a committed high nuke burst damage dealer and a uniformly consistent DPS. Both her elemental skill and her elemental burst seem to be equally relevant, which will likely correlate to equalized talent priority. My gut feeling is that she's going to be extremely stat dependent, as most burst activated reliant DPS have high energy costs and incentivize large energy recharge. Many of you may think that 4-piece emblem set will be the perfect set with such a design just like Raiden Shogun, but I wouldn't be so sure with so much of her kit design revolving around her elemental skill. It will still be useful, no doubt, but not perfect. This combined with the usual DPS necessities of attack, crit rate, crit damage, and even what is mentioned as elemental mastery providing additional Seishio Sakura damage will lead to a very stat hungry fox. Future Xlice jumping in here. So recently her YoLab article was released, so we get a little bit more fine-tuned with her kit layout. Some additional things that I want to mention. For her elemental skill, the Seishio Sakura, from here it looks like up to 3 totems can exist simultaneously and that they each fire on their own timer. It looks to be relatively frequent, possibly up to once per second or once per 2 to 3 seconds on average. This may likely be fairly consistent mini DPS. And then for her elemental burst, without knowing the artifacts used in this demo, the 3084 initial tick seems to be from her burst damage, and then the 3123 from her totems being unsealed, which I think will be elemental skill damage. If this is the case, 4-piece emblem will definitely be less value, as her burst damage will only be roughly 20% of her overall damage output, including the consistent DPS from her elemental skill totems. So just keep this info in mind when this video gets to the artifact section. Now, what do I think of anticipated weapons that may work for her? We obviously have the Kagura's Verity, that is for sure her signature weapon, and will highly likely be the strongest even if we don't know specific stats currently. For the other 5-star options, Lost Prayer. This is a great starting off catalyst and one of the easier weapons to build around with the insane crit rate stat stick. The passive, however, takes way too long, up to 16 seconds, to stack for maximum value. It's not the best weapon for her, but it's not the worst. This weapon will be valuable strictly for the massive crit rate. Skyward Atlas, standard de facto catalyst that will provide beefy stats for her. Not too relevant of a passive, only the 12% elemental bonus damage matters. Good base attack and attack percent as a secondary. Memory of Dust, this is just a attack percent stat stick. It's usable but unlikely to be a priority pick for her. I think that these 5-star weapons in general will all be okay for her. Nothing screams optimal with her known kit design from the livestream. 4-star and below options. I think the weapon in this category that shines the brightest is definitely the Witsith. All 3 passive options, even the Elemental Mastery one, will likely be heavily useful for her, and especially if you have Refinement Rank 5, the buff is insanely strong. You'll likely have to play around the 30-second buff window for maximum effectiveness though, so we'll have to see on release how flexible her rotations can be. Now, besides the de facto crit options like Blackcliff and Solar Pearl, I think the most budget option available to players will probably be the Mappa Mare. Mappa Mare is going to need reactions in the team comp though to trigger the elemental damage bonus. Again, the Elemental Mastery on the secondary stat is strictly for that passive that the livestream mentioned. And if not opting for these craftable choices, I think that the 3-star weapon, Magic Guide, which is probably an unknown choice for most, should synergize with her kit reasonably well. The base attack, however, is very low, but does provide Elemental Mastery secondary stat, along with a passive that increases damage against Hydro or Electro-inflicted enemies, which in a Mono Electro or Electrocharge comp should be fairly easy to maintain. With the 2.5 live stream not revealing any new artifact sets, we likely won't have a dedicated signature 4-piece set for her to use. So for current builds, we may need to default back to some older sets that are still relevant for Electro-based DPS. We have 4-piece Thunder Soother, so as long as you can maintain Electro Aura on enemies via Electrocharge or Mono Electro comps, this artifact set will likely have decently high uptime for its 35% boost to Electro-affected enemies. As of the now information, this is the only 4-piece artifact set I can commit to saying is viable on YAE MIKO. Choices like 4-piece Emblem, we don't know enough details for sure until the full kit official reveal. Now, besides 4-piece Thunder Soother, 2-piece viable mix and match pieces will likely include the following. 2-piece Thundering Fury for the raw 15% Electro, 2-piece Wanderer's Troop for 80 Elemental Mastery depending on how good that scaling is, 2-piece Shimenawas and 2-piece Gladiators for raw 18% attack, 2-piece Emblem for the raw 20% recharge. And probably unlikely, but I'm still going to mention here, 2-piece Noblesse for the burst damage. Burst damage is unlikely to be a high priority for her, so stick to the other options. Now, when it comes to main stats, this is going to be a little bit tricky since we really need her specific official numbers to make this judgment. For the timepiece, I could see attack main stat, energy recharge main stat, or even elemental mastery main stat as possible choices. Elemental mastery if the passive talent is a high conversion rate, attack percent is always a default choice, and energy recharge if the energy cost is very high. For the goblet, Electro will likely be the highest priority, but depending on her innate kit increases, attack or elemental mastery could also be viable. Mask. Crit rate or crit damage main stat, this is honestly just dependent on Ascension talent that you're using and the weapon that you're going to be using. My estimations will probably follow standard attack electro crit build or energy recharge electro crit build, both with elemental mastery substats. Alright, so what can we really do with team building with 1 minute of footage from the live stream? Honestly, not much. Yeah, I know. A lot of you are dreamers. I get it. Unfortunately, though, my channel does not discuss leaks, so we have to go off strict livestream information. Just from YAE MIKO being an Electro DPS defaults to 2 blind compositions. There's an Electro Charge with Mono Kokomi plus double Electro, and Mono Electro plus Bennett buff, which is 3 Electro units and 1 Pyro. In both of these team comps, Electro Resonance Orb is easily generated through Electro Charge or Overload. If the rerun banners are anything to go by, the 5-star composition running Raiden Shogun plus Kokomi, along with YAE MIKO, will probably be a staple Electro Charge rotational burst comp. Beyond this info though, we don't really have data confidence to suggest anything more. We really have to wait for her release and all the juicy numbers to figure out exactly how does she rotate and if she's dependent on specific team synergies. As for now, we can really only rely on RNG for artifact farming, and for my dreamers out there, prepare her materials. That's all I'm confidently able to cover in this pre-release video for YAE MIKO. I hope you guys enjoyed a little discussion on our upcoming Shrine Maiden. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to like and subscribe. I regularly post a mixture of guides and personable content to the channel, so if you liked what you see here, feel free to check out my other content. As always, thanks for watching, and we'll see you on the next one. Take care.